This podcast is presented by the Prince George's County Memorial Library System.
Hi, I'm Hawa.
I'm Heather.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Darlene.
And this is our podcast, These Books Made Me. Today, for our last episode of Season 5, we're going to be talking about Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt. Friendly warning as always, this podcast contains spoilers. If you don't yet know about the stranger in the yellow suit, proceed with caution. Okay, everyone. So, was this y'all's first time reading Tuck Everlasting? And if it wasn't, how did the reread compare to when you guys were younger?
So it was not my first time reading it. I definitely read this when I was in grade school. I remember I did an accelerated reader test on it. But clearly that did not make me retain a whole lot of details because it was honestly rereading it was sort of a surprise. Like it was almost like I was going in blind because I remembered very little about it. I really enjoyed it, honestly. It was a really interesting follow-up to Twilight because it did deal with similar themes in arguably a much better way. And I mostly enjoyed it. I mean, I think that it has some really lyrical language in it. And, you know, for a children's book, it doesn't necessarily come off as a children's book.
Heather, I remembered very little of the details of it. And actually, you know, I think I had made it through almost all of the book before I realized that I think when I was remembering what little I did remember about this book is I think I was conflating some of what I remembered with another book by Natalie Babbitt called The Search for Delicious. And even it was just like remembering the cover art, maybe a few of the details. And now I want to go back and read that because I remember really liking that. But again, it's all very fuzzy. So I think I had like these two books by Natalie Babbitt sort of like in this, I don't know, melting pot of plot and vague childhood memories in my head. So, you know, it was almost like reading it for the first time to read it again, even though it kind of had some resonances. So I enjoyed it. I think that probably the language and the writing style, I think I probably looked at it with a slightly more cynical adult eye than I probably would have as a kid. There was a part of me that was like looking at the metaphors and in a unhelpfully cynical way going, I'm analyzing this that I probably wouldn't have reading the first time. And I was annoyed at that part of myself. But I think it's a nice, charming book that really kind of feels like historical fiction with like a fun little fantasy component to it.
So this was my first time reading it. I was trying to think like how I would have read it as a kid. I think I would have not liked it as a kid because I thought it was it was a pretty sad ending to me. But I feel like as an adult, I understand why it had to be that way. And I feel like as a kid, I would have just been like, but Winnie like should have been with Jesse because he's lonely. I don't know. But I really liked the book. I thought it was very short, but very impactful. I feel like what I came away thinking was maybe that I wish it included more because I feel like it just like we kind of just breezed right through it. I mean, it is a middle grade book and it is really short. And yeah, I came away like wanting to probably read more by the author. And I appreciate that she hasn't tried to like capitalize on it by like doing any prequels or any sequels. She already said she doesn't have any follow-up book to this. But yeah, I'm really interested to get into the conversation about it because like Heather already brought up, I think it was a really interesting book to follow up Twilight with.
I'm sure this comes as a surprise to no one, but this was also my first time reading it. I started this morning and finished this morning. I listened to it on 3X and followed Heather's face. And I followed along with the ebook on my iPad. It moved very fast, to be honest.
Because you were at 3X.
You're like a reading efficiency channel.
I don't even know how you understand it at test speed.
But y'all know I talk really fast. So when I'm reading to myself, I am usually reading aloud. I haven't done it in a while, but I'm usually reading aloud. So that's about the speed that I feel like I probably would be reading it anyway. Yeah, I'm still processing my thoughts a little bit, and I love that we're going to have this discussion because I feel like this is definitely going to help me with that. But I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing. But no, I thought it was interesting for sure. Like, I didn't know anything about the book or where it was going to go. So I thought it was interesting. There's one thing that maybe threw me off about it, but overall, I think I liked it. You know, yeah. As a kid, would I have liked it? I don't know. But
yeah, I think as a kid, I wouldn't have.
I would have been like, okay, where's the rest of the book? Where's the rest of the story?
I didn't remember it being this short.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we will dive into a plot summary. The story begins in the small town of Tree Gap, where 10-year-old Winnie Foster feels stifled by her overprotective family and the strict rules of her life. One hot August morning, she wanders into the nearby woods and meets a boy named Jesse Tuck, who's drinking from a hidden spring. When Jesse's family discovers her, they panic and explain the truth. That spring gives eternal life to anyone who drinks it. The Tucks learned it the hard way nearly a century earlier, and they've stayed the same age ever since. The Tuck family takes Winnie to their cabin to explain everything and to keep her from revealing their secret. During her time with them, Winnie sees both the wonder and the sadness of their immortal lives, how they must move constantly to avoid suspicion, and how they've watched loved ones age and die while they remain unchanged. Angus Tuck, the father, tells Winnie that life's natural cycle, being born, growing, and dying, is what gives it meaning. But trouble follows. A mysterious man in a yellow suit overhears the Tuck's secret and plans to sell the magical water to anyone who can afford it. When he tries to force Winnie to show him the spring, Mae Tuck strikes him with a rifle to stop him and mortally wounds him. Mae is arrested and her secret risks being exposed once the authorities realize there's no way to hang a woman who cannot die. In a brave act of loyalty, Winnie helps the Tucks break Mae out of jail during a thunderstorm. She sneaks into the cell and takes Mae's place in the bed, giving the Tucks time to flee before dawn. It's a turning point for Winnie. She's no longer the timid child from the start of the story, but someone capable of courage and compassion. The town's children, who previously found Winnie prissy and standoffish, now flock to her, admiring her sense of adventure and bravery. Before leaving town, Jesse offers Winnie a bottle of water from the spring, asking her to drink it when she turns 17 so they can be together forever. But years later, when the Tucks return to Tree Gap, they find Winnie's grave instead. She chose to live a full mortal life.
Natalie Babbitt was born Natalie Zane Moore in Dayton, Ohio, to Genevieve and Ralph Moore on July 28, 1932. She also had an older sister named Diane. Ralph Moore worked in labor relations, but switched jobs frequently, partially due to the Great Depression, and the family therefore also moved frequently. Natalie's first career aspiration was to be a pirate, and her second was to be a librarian. Babbitt's mother, Genevieve Moore, was a painter of landscapes and portraits and attended college, which was unusual for the time period. Genevieve had been discouraged by outside pressures from pursuing the master's in art that she had wanted to continue on to. Nevertheless, or perhaps because of this experience, she ensured that her daughters were exposed to art and literature and encouraged them to be ambitious when it came to career. According to Babbitt, she was a woman of great intelligence and energy and talent, with nowhere to put it all. So she turned the intense searchlight of her ambition onto my sister and me. We grew up with the idea firmly implanted that we could, should, and would have it all: a first-class education, a strong marriage, a family, and an active career. Babbitt was inspired to pursue a career as an illustrator after seeing Sir John Tenniel's illustrations for Alice in Wonderland. She decided that pen and ink would be her medium. Babbitt studied art at both the Laurel School in Cleveland and then at Smith College in Massachusetts. She married Samuel Fisher Babbitt after she graduated from Smith, and any career plans were put on hold for 10 years while she focused on raising their 3 small children. Babbitt and her husband published a children's book written by Samuel and illustrated by Natalie entitled The 49th Magician together in 1966. Babbitt would continue creating books after this, although her husband would not. She won a Newbery Honor for Neenoch Rise in 1971. However, Tuck Everlasting, 1975, would be her most well-known book. It has been made into a movie twice, 1981 and 2002. Babbitt continued to write and illustrate books for the rest of her career. Other notable titles include The Search for Delicious, The Devil's Storybook, and The Eyes of the Amaryllis. She died of lung cancer on October 31st, 2016, and is buried in New Haven, Connecticut.
Jumping into our discussion, first topic that we have is children adventuring and the trope of parents as a kind of absent non-entities. We know that Winnie's parents are really overprotective and really strict, and the reason she even goes into the woods is because she feels a little stifled by them. Was there anything else kind of about that aspect of the story that really spoke to any of you or resonated with any of you?
You know what? It kind of made me think of like Coraline a little bit. Like how like
Yeah, but like the opposite, because I feel like Coraline's parents were not strict. They just were busy with their own lives.
They were
Yeah.
just terrible parents.
Yeah, exactly. Like kind of like they saw how grass was on the other side, and like because at one point she's like, "I love these people, and I never want to leave them, or not never want to leave them, but like I love them. They're my friends." Like she says that more than once, but then at one point she is also like, "I've decided that they're criminals," but then she's kind of wishy-washy, and I think that she just really what it was that she enjoyed being able to kind of be in a family without feeling like they were like hovering over her. Like they were just hovering over her or like, being super strict, right? Because she was just so like taken aback that they were just sitting in the parlor and eating instead of sitting at like the dining table. So like little things like that, like little freedoms that she felt like she got when she was with them, even though they were really just keeping her there so she doesn't tell their secret.
Yeah.
In the books that we've read for sort of middle grades, this is such a common setup, right? Like we saw it with the Samantha books, like she runs away and has this adventure and she's not really running away to like never come back. And same with Winnie, like she's at the beginning of the book turning over in her head what it would look like to run away, but she's too fearful because her family's always told her like the world is very dangerous and they haven't really specified what that looks like. And so she imagines the things that a child living then might imagine, probably like getting eaten by a wild animal or something like that, or being kidnapped, which then ends up happening to her. And we see that with so many of the books that we've read, where you have this child who is feeling like they want to press against the box that their family has kept them in. The other thing that I thought as you were saying that is that there's some like classism in this too. Like the guy in the yellow suit thinks all of these people are,
stupid.
Hates, he doesn't have respect for any of them. But we see the contrast between Winnie's family, which is the more, I guess, like uppity family, right? Like their cottage has a touch me not appearance, that the grass is too manicured. Everything is just so. And the family wants Winnie to be just so. And so they kind of keep her in a gilded cage of sorts, even though compared to college educated man in the suit, these people are uneducated and whatever. But for their community, they've been there the longest. They own a lot of property. Like there's some regard for them.
Because even when he's talking to them, he says like, in talking about the Tucks, the family that, kidnapped Winnie, they're like, yeah, those illiterates, and so he's talking about the other family to this family as they're less than,
right.
And I'm sure that feeling was,
Yeah, he says that they don't even like, it's for better people, like better people who can pay for it should be the ones who should be immortal, which has some like real, like, I don't know, fallout or, I think that's also a common trope is like, oh, the rich people buy their way into some sort of specialness, but the characters we're cheering for are not those people,
His business model was not very sustainable.
Yeah, it wasn't. And then it's like, what are you going to do with that money? I don't know. It wasn't well thought out, but he's comically evil, you guys. Like,
who he kind of reminds me of? If y'all have ever seen Very Odd Parents, he reminds me of Mr. Crocker. It's like, because the man in the yellow suit's like, I went and got all these degrees after my grandma told me this story about this family who lived for so long, and I was trying to understand the science behind it, and then I happened to come across and I'm like,
no, I thought you were gonna say Doug Dimmadome.
I could see that too because of the suit, right?
Yeah. And his tall hat. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's comically evil. Like you expect him to be twirling his mustache and tying someone to the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing redeeming about him.
Right.
And he's not a very fleshed out character.
Yeah.
Like he really is a plot device, just the bad guy that moves the action along.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this whole trope is, we've talked about it before. It's a way to allow a child to have an adventure, because if the parents are with them, the adults control the situation, they control the action. And it's really hard for us to get a child on their own unless you have this running away or they're orphans, or, you have to establish that the child is able to do something independently and get into trouble independently and then save the day independently. So I think that's why we see that trope. I think it's pretty effective here because at least there was, there's this setup where it's not that Winnie hates her family or thinks that they're evil. She feels suffocated,
Mm-hmm.
She's 10 and she wants to have an adventure and she hasn't been allowed to do much of anything. So she's got this great imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And she's imagining the wide world and the things she might be able to do that she hasn't experienced yet. And we have sort of, the author fleshes it out by saying, like, she doesn't have any friends.
Yeah.
The kids at school think she's too, like, stuck up and, like, just so, she's too proper to be friends with them. And so I think part of why she becomes so enamored with the Tucks so early on is just, these are their first friends. Like, they're the first independent of her family people that she's really had any kind of affiliation with.
Mm.
And you're right. Like, they're just loosey-goosey and easy about things, which I guess you would be if you were living forever, because, like, who cares?
Yeah, because you see her going through the process, looking at their house. She's like, it's not like super clean, but maybe they were just like, I'll get to it tomorrow.
We have so much time to clean up.
So much time to clean up.
I thought that was a nice
But also they
observation.
pay her like a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And like, and each of them in their own way, like they kind of kept reminding me of Twilight, and like they're really they all have like a special interest in her mortality, and like in different ways, right? Even the conversation that she then ends up having with the father, or just how overprotective May is of her, and then Jesse more so thinking like, oh, if you can grow up and then we can like be together. And then Miles also kind of thinking very fondly of her as a daughter figure that he didn't really get to spend much time with. So I also feel like that adds to it as well. Like, she gets to be something for each of them. And I think she feels the sincerity in all of their interactions whenever she does have like alone time with them. And, probably different than how it is that she's treated in her family.
Well, and they're so desperately lonely, like they are in a cage of their own making, because it would be really lonely to have this incredible secret that is so fundamental to your existence now, right? Like, but you can't share it with anybody outside of these three other people who are related to you, because it would be potentially catastrophic to the world. I think that in some ways, loneliness is really the biggest motivator in this story for all of the main characters. It gets demonstrated in different ways, and they each have a different angle for that. But I thought that was a really gutsy thing to put into a children's book. I mean, if you think about this book very much, it is pretty depressing. Winnie has her great adventure and she sees something that sounds good, but she comes to understand would not be good at all. And she has her life and dies a natural death, and that's that. But the Tucks are still going.
Yeah.
So, that's dark, because they are not happy. And like, how awful would it be to be tired and done and you can't be done?
And that there's nothing you can do.
Nothing at all.
Yeah. I think it was even worse that their loved ones have died. Like, I think Miles's story is so
sad.
devastating that he well, first off, his wife left him because they thought, that he like sold his soul to the devil or something. I forget the exact wording. But then, he didn't get to grow up with his children. And even if he met them later in life and explained things, it doesn't really matter because in the end, they will, they died.
Yeah.
And so he can't. And I don't think that he could put himself through that again. So I think that was just kind of a one-time thing.
Yeah, because he'd either have to, like, theoretically, he could marry again and have a family, but he's going to be in the same position when 20 years in,
he's still not
they're
aging.
like, whoa, what's going on? You haven't aged a day.
Yeah.
And especially back then, people aged a lot harder than they do now. Like, I mean, I think today you could potentially see somebody going the 20 years without somebody thinking like, oh, there's something very like sinister here or something amiss. The beauty of sunscreen and cosmetic surgery, I guess. But like back then, the difference between a 20-year-old man and a 40-year-old man, like looking at them after all that time in the sun and hard labor,
and probably also like diet and stuff like
exactly.
that.
Like at their teeth even, like you would have no explanation for that. Like it would be very disturbing to see somebody like that.
Yeah, it's no wonder that his family was disturbed.
Yeah.
And I mean, they can't stay any place among other people for a long time.
Why
Just
do
like
they
in
keep
Twilight.
coming back to Tree Gap? That bothered me because, I mean, same issue with the Cullens in Twilight. Like, stop coming back.
Well, for this one, was it that they wanted to check up on the spring and just make sure no one was drinking?
But
Is
like
that their meeting spot every 10 years?
It
Oh,
is,
that's
but
what it
like,
is.
why?
Okay.
Because I think when I went into it, I
cell
was thinking
phones.
like, oh, they have to keep drinking it, but they don't. So why are you picking this place where people might recognize you for one? Because like, if they're coming back every 10 years, the elf music, the music box, people are recognizing, like the grandmother is recognizing it as something she heard,
Right.
Decades ago. Stop playing the music box, Mae.
First of
Also,
all-
why is it so loud? Like, they're like really far away and everyone's hearing the music.
What's with the music? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
What did it sound like at 3x speed?
I don't think in the book there was no music.
Really?
Yeah, they just like the one I listened to didn't have
because
music.
you had a different, we had the one that Alexis Bledel narrated.
Yeah.
Didn't they even have the music box playing when she was escaping from the prison? Like,
Yeah.
That's
I'm like,
hilarious.
of all the times, wrap it in a handkerchief, put it in your pocket, silence that thing.
Well, it was also strange, like if they're meeting back every 10 years, which again, just seems super ill-advised to me. Like, don't do that. Go somewhere and then pick a different meeting spot for 10 years from that. But also, like, they don't need to do that at all. Like, if they moved somewhere on the outskirts of a town, Miles is working as a blacksmith. Like, he has a trade.
Yeah.
And do they even need to eat? Like all they have to do is find housing.
Right, because if they don't eat, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Exactly.
To them?
They won't starve.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think they made that clear, but that's a very good
Well, because
question.
they eat in the book.
They
And I'm
do.
like, why are they eating? And they like don't talk while they're eating.
They do center they have regular meal times, so
They must get hungry. It must be maybe
what
just be
happens if they
uncomfortable.
don't eat?
I
feel
kind
like
of thought like maybe they were just doing that because it's like it's something that they associate with like
Normalcy?
Yeah, humanity.
so they didn't notice anything different until, like, I think the cat
The cat passed.
the cat aged and died.
The
but
horse got shot
Yeah,
and
Jesse
was
fell out of a
fine.
tree.
Jesse
Fine.
fell on his head.
I think the only difference they notice is lack of aging and lack of injury.
Yeah, I mean,
Unanswered questions.
it seems like if they didn't eat, it wouldn't matter. So like their cost of living would be incredibly low, Like if he worked as a smith, they could buy a house and just go subsistence farming for if they wanted to eat, like I feel like they're making their lives more complicated than they need to.
Them being alive is making their lives more complicated than it needs to be.
Well, the other thing, too, that was odd to me. So, like, if you're not going anywhere to get educated and you're not really interacting with other people much, I mean, I guess Jesse and Miles are, so maybe they're bringing back newspapers or something to, like, stay on things. But you'd be so isolated from progress.
Yeah.
It would just be really odd. Like, I feel like they would feel very anachronistic to people in a variety of ways.
After a couple centuries, your language is going to be, unless you have regular exposure to other people talking and sort of naturally adjust your speech patterns.
Yeah. And I think that's what made the ending that much sadder. Like, I think when it ended, I was like, oh, it feels a little empty because it's like, it was like bittersweet because you realize like Winnie did choose to live a full life and like had kids and like died. And there's that bittersweet moment at the end where father, his name is Tuck, right?
Angus Tuck.
Angus Tuck. Yeah. He like is happy that she made that decision, but then obviously sad that they didn't get to see her again. And obviously that she's
like why didn't you come back in 10 years like you were going to? I mean, I guess then they felt like they shouldn't because
she's
they
on
were
the run
still
for murder.
Yeah. But like come back, send Jesse back in 10 years to be like, so what'd you decide? You know, like it just seemed kind of weird.
Yeah. But yeah, it just felt very like bittersweet at the end. But I think what I liked about it was that it did seem very simplistic at points because, like Heather was saying, that the villain character just felt kind of like cartoonishly evil. But I feel like it was a really good way of kind of showing like who is right and wrong in that, like, and how they were supposed to view death and immortality. Because you have a character like that wants to profit off of it. Well, he wants to be immortal himself and then wants to profit off of it. And like he knows nothing about it, right? He has not lived this life. But then you have it contrasting to Angus's conversation with her, where at this point they have lived that way for like a century. And he's like explaining to her that like to give it meaning, right? Your life has no meaning if there isn't like death at the end of it or if there isn't this cycle. So I don't know. I thought that while it was like simplistic in some parts, I think it was necessary for like the age group that it was made for.
I think so too. I mean, they couldn't have delved into a lot of things without it becoming a much, much larger, longer, heavier book for kids. I love that it's not a happy ending, though. I think we see that very rarely. Okay, we did see it more in older children's books, but it's always like kill the animal, right? Like you get a Black Beauty or a Old Yeller or Where the Red Fern Grows, where the death and the sadness is about the animal. It's not about the humans. And I really like that.
It is what it is.
Yeah. You know, it's not a happy ending for the Tucks. It's a happier ending for Winnie because she had the luxury of choice, and she made a choice and she lived her life and she died, which they grieve because they've been grieving the loss of people throughout to the point that they just don't meet people now. Like they don't make those attachments because there is nothing but loss.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty complex thing as a morality tale for kids to grasp the idea of death as a good thing. And death is something that gives us humanity and it gives our lives meaning. I think is very sophisticated to put in a book that's meant for a 10-year-old.
Yeah, and I think that it also kind of just goes to show like how it really just goes to show, I think, how much of suffering that they're doing over the years and how much Winnie really meant to them. Because if you think about it, like I think their experiences with Winnie was like over like a couple days, a week, right? But like they had gone so long without really getting to know somebody like that. Like they were so excited to just have like a visitor in their home and almost like a little sleepover. And since then, they probably really hadn't had any kind of experiences like that. So I think it really just goes to show like how much suffering that they had been doing and how much suffering they're going to continue to do because they really can't build those relationships. My question is, are they now moving forward? Are they continuing to travel together, or is this them just meeting back up again?
I assume they're meeting back up again because it seems like, well, Miles and Jesse, there's friction between them anyways, according to Mae. So I assumed that they kind of continued the pattern that they were in.
Mhm.
I mean, also just the idea of secrets being so isolating. I don't know how many kids would get that from reading this book, but
Mhm.
I think it's a really important concept. And it's something that for a child that is experiencing something bad, maybe at home, the loneliness that comes from having something that you can't tell anyone else, I think can be a really oppressive burden. And I think that this book explores that really well with the Tucks, because the
Mhm.
catharsis of being able to tell someone else who they are when they've had decades of not being able to do that is so powerful. And it's why you see this rapid escalation of friendship
Mm-hmm.
or love between
Mhm.
them, is because doing that like trauma bonds you to somebody, right?
Mhm.
Like, this is the only person outside of their family that they have been able to share this with.
Come on, you gotta go with us. We got something really important to tell you,
Mhm.
but you gotta
Yeah.
come with us. We can't tell you here.
Yeah.
We gotta
I
make
mean-
sure we're far away from here.
Yeah, I think that is powerful because, like, think about all the models of, like, who you would tell a secret to. If they were to go and tell a priest, a
Mhm.
pastor, a religious person, a doctor, there would be no response from that would help them. They would
Be written
might-
off as crazy.
They might end up in
heretics.
an asylum. They might end up imprisoned. They might get excommunicated. There would be nothing good that would come out of that, because there are no structures
Mhm.
in society that allow for this kind of secret, because it transcends that. And certainly, you could look at this as a model for real life secrets that people have, that obviously not like a secret of immortality, because that doesn't exist, but I think you could probably look at this as a model of people can have secrets that society or people in their life are not able to properly help them or give them support with. So I'm not sure what I'm trying to say.
I mean,
guess.
like, going back
Yeah.
to Speak, I think I was thinking of that when I was reading it, is the kinds of secrets that kids keep are often about trauma. They're often adults in their families saying, you can't tell anyone about this, or these bad things will happen. And the sad reality is that when kids do share those secrets with adults or even other kids, they're often not believed,
Mhm.
and they're often blamed for it, or, they're told, like, well, that's not a nice thing to say. I mean, there's I think a long history of dismissing children who do choose to share something that they weren't supposed to tell about. So I don't know. And again, I don't know if a child that age to be reading this book would necessarily make that connection, but I think that it's a powerful thing to maybe make somebody feel seen. You have this
Mhm.
thing that you carry around with you like a heavy weight because you can't share it. And the Tucks are not bad people, right? Like, we're meant to like them. We're meant to think that they are good people that were unfortunately on the wrong end of something that they didn't sign up for and that they didn't anticipate and that they didn't have the tools to handle. I don't know. I feel like that could be a very important thing for the right child who's reading that, and, maybe has something bad happening in their life that they can't share, and at least feeling like, oh, somebody understands that, that somebody is experiencing that. Because you're not going to give a 10-year-old Speak, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
maybe a 10-year-old that's going through some of the same things that are happening in Speak could read this.
Yeah, I think this book can work as sort of a fable, a reflection on mortality and immortality. It can work as like on the level of like what it's like to carry a really heavy secret that it feels like no one can hear you or help you with. Like, I think it's got layers to it.
Well, I don't remember. I think it was an interview with Natalie Babbitt that I saw a pull quote from. But I think for her, this was sort of a meditation on death. Like, she did not feel that children's books tackled that subject enough or well. And so depicting death as a positive thing, right? Like that is the thing that makes the time that we live meaningful and joyful and happy, is that you know that it's not infinite. I think that's cool. You know, again, that's a really sophisticated thing. We're very binary about, ooh, death is bad, life is good, a lot of times with kids, which then makes them very confused and upset when grandma dies. There's good in having lived and experienced, and, you know, not to focus on the end, but focus on the journey and the impact of somebody's days.
Yeah.
So the one thing about this book that kind of threw me, which I don't know if we talked too much about it just yet, was the whole like Jesse wanting Winnie to like wait for him, not wait for him, but like, you know, drink the water and so that at 17 they can, you know, be together. But I guess it's not too much more different than Twilight, I guess.
I think it's better.
You think
right?
it's better?
Like it's her choice.
But
right?
then again, we did say that he's lonely, so like it's kind of more so that and less
he's
about like
desperately lonely. Like I don't get from this that there's any sort of lust there, which in Twilight it's clearly all about lust.
Right.
It's like this huge attraction they have to each other.
It's more like
this is my only chance to have
you're the only person that
somebody
knows
that can share this with me someday. And he still doesn't, he gives her a choice at least.
Yeah.
And yes, I think it's not great. He's had many, many years to live. Presumably, he should understand that a 10-year-old is not going to be able to make that judgment, and that he has kind of like romanticized it and put some pressure on her about this. But this did not feel as squicky to me as Twilight did.
Yeah, and I wonder. Oh,
sorry,
go on.
I was like I said, and I read this book really fast, so like talking through with you guys has helped me like come to that conclusion.
Yeah, I was gonna just say, like, I wonder also just how much life he's lived, because I think independently of Edward, I was thinking of like him, like how would it have been to just keep living as a 17-year-old, because he can't do much more. Like Miles can have a trade and like, you know, find like and like could have had a family. I just feel like there was just more about life that he could kind of like move on to in a way that Jesse couldn't really have. And yeah, I found that really sad that like he did give her the choice, and like he kind of had to live, or he has to live with her choice. Because yeah, at some point, you know, Angus mentioned it at the end when they're visiting Winnie's grave that like, you know, Jessie had to have known what her choice was at some point.
Yeah.
They didn't visit her grave until like the 1950s. At that point, she had already passed away.
How would she have found him? So that's my thing.
Yeah.
Like if he hadn't gone back to like verify whether she had the water or
Newspapers.
not.
Because this was their first time going back. So it's just like
local immortal
list.
Yeah.
I guess connection page.
Yeah, I guess they just didn't want to have them meet up again while she was still alive. Because I do think it's even more poignant that like they didn't see her again, and then she has passed away. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was just it was really sad and really interesting that he kind of has to live knowing what her choice was, and that she chose, like, given the choice, she chose not to have the life that he's living, which, you know, probably kind of cements that in his mind, like, this is not a great way to live, and I'll never have a chance again at really convincing anyone to have this life with me. Which again was really interesting to think about in terms of like Twilight, which we just read, because I think that was the opposite, where Edward's like, you don't want this life. Like we live forever. We have to like do high school many times over the course of our lives. And
Jessie could have been a Carlisle and been like, I'm lonely. I'm gonna find somebody that is into this, that's my age now, like a 17-year-old who, you know, he could have courted some girl
who was suicidal
and just, or, you know, and just given her the water.
Yeah.
And like, surprise, we're living forever.
You know, they could all learn a lot from each other, I think.
Yeah. But I thought what I did like about this book is that I feel like it did a good job of like foreshadowing what her eventual choice would be. Because I want to say when they're breaking Mae out, they said something about like prisons, and oh my God, I wish I can remember the exact
She
quote.
kept thinking of a line from a poem that's like, bars don't make a prison, stone walls don't make like.
Yeah. And so I kept thinking like, oh, I wonder like if she just keeps repeating that in her mind because she's realizing like they're in their own life prison. Like, yes, they're about to break Mae out, but this is due to the secret that she has, and she'll always carry that secret because she'll never be able to tell anyone. I wonder if that's like the moment that she decides like, I can't do this life with them because I can't imagine having to always be that careful and always having to like, just watch my back and make sure no one's listening about this secret. And like all the horrible things that the Tucks have already kind of told her about. Yeah. But I do like, you were saying that there's not that many children's books that would deal with death. And this is a really good one. I did, going back to Twilight, I did enjoy that it said that there is goodness in getting older because that's one thing I didn't really appreciate about Twilight, among many other things, but that like that Bella had a fear of getting older, and I feel like that was just never really addressed. And then she just gets to become like a young vampire forever. But that age really mattered to her, and just the messaging that even if that's not what Stephanie had intended, support this idea that like women need to like always
stay young and
stay young and
beautiful.
beautiful.
Be young and beautiful.
And so I don't know that was really her intent, but that's kind of where the story goes, is that she does get to stay young and beautiful with Edward, who is also like gonna stay young forever. And so this one is kind of saying like, no, there's like positivity and like growing older and like experiencing life and that it ends.
Well, and I wonder too if some of that is also somewhat religious in nature. You know, something like Twilight, is the immortality meant to be sort of referencing what happens after you die in some way, like this idea that I think many people have, that heaven or an afterlife is this really beautiful place, and you're beautiful and you're restored to sort of your peak, and you are, you know, this pristine being, and
your hands are forever cold.
and you're sparkly, and this does not have that same
that's true.
You know, the focus is on the beauty and the value of the life you live, not on what happens at the end. And there's a real sadness about the living forever concept.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't really think about how this book really lacks any sort of like religious eye or like a religious angle.
I really liked that.
Yeah.
About personally.
Yeah.
I have questions about how complete their indestructibility and immortality is, because like I'm concerned about the Tucks, because eventually the sun is going to swallow the earth.
And it also makes me wonder how many others there are like them out there, because
they
can't be the only ones.
People who drank from that spring. I mean, did the animals must have drunk from the
the
spring?
toad, right? Like,
yeah, the toad
That poor
can't be the
toad.
only one.
I know.
Did mosquitoes breathe
they
in the
covered
spring?
it up, right?
Yeah.
So theoretically, before they covered it, someone or something must have. There should be someone other than them and the horse out there, even if it's just other animals. Like, did they never like shoot a deer that wouldn't die? Like,
Is there like a field of magic that once, because like water, there's like water cycles. Water doesn't stay in one spot. I don't think so. Like, does the water pass out of like a radius and then it becomes? I have a lot of questions.
I kind of liked that the magic was not explained at all. You know, it has a very limited source. There's no, there's a fairy guarding it, or God put it here, or there's no explanation at all. It just is a thing in this world. Yeah, I I thought that was pretty interesting. And so we have the Tucks, the tree, the horse, and the toad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they destroyed the forest, and presumably the tree, because they talked about the tree, like what they carved on the tree.
The tree also was not aging.
Yeah.
But should they have been able to carve on the tree in the first place if the tree is indestructible?
No, probably not. It should have healed itself or something.
I have so many questions.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really explanation for the magic in this book. But again, it's like a fairy tale. There's never any explanation in fairy tales like, why is the witch magical? Why is, there's not, it just is, right?
Is the carving on the tree like a tattoo? Could they get tattoos?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. That's a wound.
So did they never like cut themselves and like wonder why it didn't?
They did. They said that. She said, Jesse fell on his head. She cut herself cooking.
The dad shot himself.
But it was until the dad shot himself that
they realized.
They were like, ooh, yeah, we're impervious to damage. Like that would have killed somebody. Because I think you could explain away, like, okay, it looked like he landed on his head, but kids are resilient. And like maybe he didn't exactly. Maybe he took some of the impact here. The ground was softer. The horse being shot, I think, was another one where they were like, it went straight through. That's not normal. And the horse didn't skip a beat. But like Angus shot himself once they had enough evidence. Like he just did a little scientific method there. It's like, okay, I'm going to test this out. I'm going to shoot myself in the heart. Which I have questions about, too, because I think most things were pretty long guns at that point. Like, we see they have a rifle. This would have been in the 1700s. I mean, I don't think this dude had a handgun. Like, how is he shooting himself in the heart with a rifle? But that's fine. I mean, I appreciated that they, like, explained, like, hey, we kind of went along for a good amount of time before we really understood what was going on too, because it's so fantastical. Like no one would believe this.
You're not going to think, oh, we're immortal now.
Exactly. But like also that gave me questions about Yellow Suit Man. So we are told that he heard about, so he basically somehow knew the family of like basically Miles's in-laws, right? So Miles, he was married. He had 2 kids. They left after like 20 years when he hadn't aged because the wife thought he had made a pact with the devil. Somehow they were telling people about this, like, which awkward to say that, but they were telling people about this, somehow worked in that like, oh yeah, and his mom plays this weird music box and here's the tune. So like the guy with the yellow suit memorized the tune. And then when he heard the music box again, the elf music, like that was what confirmed it to him. But he presents himself as a scholar and he's gone to university to try to like prove or disprove this story. Nothing that would have happened at university would have proven that to him. And like even just hearing the music box, that still shouldn't prove anything to him because it just would mean that someone has that music box. That could theoretically be handed down, you know? Like, I don't know what it was that convinced him. I mean, before actually encountering the Tucks and like hearing them say that, like prior to that, I don't understand what would have convinced him that any of this was anything other than like a legend, an old wives' tale.
Yeah.
Because he's not old enough to have been a contemporary of any of those people. This would have come to him as old people passing down a story.
Yeah, because he heard it from his grandmother.
Yeah.
Which I think maybe it was just one of those things where he heard it as a kid, was just so fascinated by it that he needed it to be true. And then it just consumed him and his life and his everything.
Yeah.
But it's so strange as like to get older and to still like really hold on to and believe in that, having not witnessed it yourself.
Yeah.
Like had you witnessed it yourself once and was like dedicated to the idea of finding it again, I feel like that would be different.
Yeah, like had he heard the sound maybe like in his 20s and then he couldn't, you know, like in his teens or in his 20s. Yeah. So then when he was a professor and then he's just like, I'm still thinking about this. But like, yeah, like you said, there was nothing that really proved anything for him. And
No.
he had kind of made his life as a professor at this point. And so to give that up because he's like, you know what? There's this like tale that my grandma told me when I was really young, and there's a part of me that believes it's true.
There's money to be made.
Yeah, I'm just gonna like give up this life because I'm
to go treasure hunting.
Yeah,
basically.
to go treasure hunting
And start a circus.
Yeah. So
And then eventually become a character in the Curious George books.
Right.
yeah.
You know what? He should have taken the potion before he pulled back up to them people's houses, but he couldn't find it. I guess that was the issue. But like,
It's not like he saw somebody get shot and then just keep going.
Right.
Like it's all based on someone singing him a music box song and saying, yeah, there was this family made a pact with the devil and the lady, this was the song and they don't die.
Right.
That's crazy stuff.
Yeah. And the thing is yeah, like that's so weird that he heard that and it's like he was like, yeah, sure, I want to do that too. Because at that point he thinks it's that they made a pact with the devil, presumably, right? Because he doesn't know anything
to as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, so you're essentially admitting that that's what you would like to do as well, because you don't know yet that it's that they just drank from a spring.
Why does he wear yellow? Is that supposed to mean something? Like I was like, this must be symbolic, but of what?
Because he's the character from Curious George.
George?
Is it meant to represent cowardice?
I was just wondering that.
Like,
I don't know.
He's
Let me
so
see.
afraid of
Strange.
death. He wastes his whole life chasing immortality. Like, is that what we're supposed to get from the yellow?
Let me see if there's any like
So,
internet theories on this.
these two questions that were asked about the man in the yellow suit, they asked the author, why doesn't the man in the yellow suit have a name? She said he had a name at the beginning. As I went along, I took it out. He is much more threatening and mysterious if he doesn't have a name. And I think that's true of a lot of things in life. When we don't know anything about someone, they're more mysterious. And then someone said, how did you get the idea for the man in the yellow suit to remain nameless? And she said, I talked to kids in school and I asked them how they would feel if a stranger came and sat next to them in the classroom and they didn't say anything. They said it would seem dangerous. I think the man in the yellow suit's evilness is easier to believe if he doesn't have a name. So she talks about him not having a name, but doesn't necessarily talk about like why specifically he was in a yellow suit.
Because a yellow suit would stick out. I mean, even now a yellow suit would stick out like a lot. Like that's an odd choice. And I would think back then it would really stick out. Like that seems so.
Especially in what, 18...
the 1870s or something. Yeah.
Yeah, would it have been? I feel like
could you even get a yellow suit?
Yeah, would it be? I feel like it'd be really expensive to get yellow suit. There's a photo of Ben Kingsley portraying him.
Ben Kingsley's such an interesting casting choice for that too. Yeah,
it's creepy. He definitely looks like the kind of guy that's like, yeah, I'm gonna sell immortality to people.
They were like, yes, give him a villainous mustache.
Yes. I put the images and it showed Bob from, if you guys watched the Beetlejuice sequel.
So creepy.
Yeah.
The Disney wiki for this movie, the film, which is what came up when I searched for them, said that he's a clear reference to the man in the yellow hat from Curious George, and I'm like, is it clear?
How old is Curious George?
Curious George is
it's
pretty
an old, it's an
really
old book.
Okay.
I don't know that it's clear.
I don't think that's clear to me. I'm assuming it was symbolic somehow, and I think she also needed a way to reference him without him having a name.
Something
so, man
distinctive.
in a yellow suit, but that could have been anything. It could have been a man in a tweed suit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know that it would have to. The yellow is interesting. I want to know what it means. Can we talk about Mae murdering the man?
Yeah.
I mean, I will say
she did what needed to be done. No, I'm
he
kidding.
had it coming. I agree, Hawa. He was a very bad person, but she bludgeoned him to death.
My thing is that she was holding the shotgun. I thought she was going to shoot him.
That would have made more sense to me. I mean, I guess she wasn't trying to kill him. She was just trying to like neutralize the threat. But does she also have super strength? I feel like you would have to hit someone so hard with a rifle as an untrained woman to kill them.
Because he never wakes back up.
No. Yeah, she just ends him. I think that was interesting too, because, you know, I think children's books are generally pretty binary about like these are the good people and these are the bad people. But, murdering him was ambiguous morally, I think.
I think maybe they felt like it was for the greater good, because it's just like, if Mae has to...
Because he's going to ruin the world if he starts selling the spring water.
Yeah.
But also being in an impossible situation, like, again, their secret puts them in these situations where it's like, well, if someone finds out, they obviously have to stop that person. And you have the difference between someone like Winnie, a 10-year-old that can easily be convinced that it's for the greater good that no one knows about the spring, versus like a greedy man that's literally been in search of them for decades, finding out and basically laying out his plan and saying like, I'm going to do this great evil with it. And I just want money. Not before I drink it too. And
there's no changing someone's mind like that.
Yeah, there's no changing someone's mind like that, because, they're basically like, you don't know what it's like. And he's basically dismissive of them and saying like, essentially calling them unintelligent and that they just didn't deserve to have immortality, but that he and all these other rich people would. So yeah, there's no changing someone's mind like that. So it was kind of like an impossible task. And on top of that, like, he was very willing to go take a 10-year-old and have her be the guinea pig. Like, that just showed his evilness. And I feel like the kind of utility of that whole situation kind of showed that they had to do it. And I don't know if it absolves Mae necessarily, but I think it shows like why it had to be done.
Yeah, the kidnappers and the murderer aren't necessarily the bad people this time around.
Yeah.
I also thought the whole she can't be tried for murder, or she can't be found guilty for murder and get hung because obviously she won't die and then everyone will know, was actually a really interesting like twist. I mean, and them breaking her out of the jail, I think, first of all, I think Winnie deciding that like she's gonna like go in her place and like hide so that like it's not obvious that she broke out was kind of funny, maybe not necessary.
Felt a little like, like every cartoon jailbreak you've ever
Yeah.
seen.
Like it was just buying them a few extra hours of time to get ahead. But we already know the sheriff's horse like won't go fast because he's like old and like doesn't want to do stuff anymore. Like, I think they would have been fine with like a 3-hour lead. But...
She's like, look, I snuck out the house. Maybe I could do this every night. And I did think it was kind of funny how like at the end it was kind of just like, yeah, now all the kids think she's kind of cool and she's looking forward to going back to school now. Like, and I think that having gone from like feeling isolated to having that experience with the Tucks and then kind of coming back and all the kids thinking that she's kind of cool, I think maybe was enough or in part for her to be like, I don't need to live forever. Like, I can be around these people that are, here and enjoy it for what it is.
I mean, you could write multiple books that talk about like what happened with Winnie afterwards. Like maybe she was like, maybe she wanted to be 16 or 17. And then maybe she said, well, I want to do this first. Or maybe she met someone else she liked.
Yeah.
Or maybe there could be so many things that happened in her life. She had a whole life after this.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to go add the movie to my watch list on Disney Plus, and the description on here says, a woman falls in love with a man who is immortal. And I'm just like, I'm wondering what...
They aged her up. Like, they make them both teenagers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they have a kiss in, I think, at least one of the films. So I think, wanted them to be closer in at least the age that they appeared.
Yeah, because I don't think
I just don't think that works as well as a setup as the book does, because her needing to wait, it makes sense. Yeah. Like that buys you some time for her to learn something or to experience other things. Whereas if they're the same age right out of the gate, there's no reason for that. And so if she's fallen that hard, teen girls are not going to, when you're that age, you're just all in with your first love.
All right. So that leads us into our next question of, does this book hold up, and would you recommend this book?
I will say that there was one instance in the book of a use of a slur that I don't know if at the time, I doubt it was really considered a slur. for the Romani people. But I mean,
I must have missed that.
I wouldn't be like, oh, don't read this book because that word
Yeah.
is in there. But yeah.
I mean, I think that unfortunately it appears in so many
A lot of
It's
things,
come up
yeah.
in other books
Yeah.
I've read before
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
were they liking themselves to, like, because they move around so much?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
because now I vaguely remember. I think May says it, or
Yeah.
maybe. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Which I'm just
Okay.
like, okay. But besides that, I think it holds up okay.
again, I think that the like actual themes in the book are pretty timeless, right? Like one of our biggest things that we wrestle with as humans is our mortality. So like to me, it feels like that's gonna endure pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't include this in the bio because I didn't feel totally confident about the source that I read it on. Take this to grain of salt, but I found a reference saying that part of the reason she wrote this book is I think it sounds like her daughter, I think like came to her like kind of distraught over the concept of death, and I think that was maybe like a kernel that went into why she wrote this book, trying to write a book for children that wrestled with death. So if that is true, I think it's kind of I think she succeeded in writing a book that I think addresses death well for children and for anyone in theory.
Well, and it doesn't kill off a beloved character. Like, I think, again, this is a really sophisticated way of dealing with death because the only person that dies in this is the bad guy. You know, I mean, other than people they allude to that we never meet, you know, and Winnie dies at the end, but we don't see that. There's no, this isn't Claudia losing Mimi, right? Like, we don't get to know a character very well and then watch them decline and die. Yeah.
And it's
I think
presented
that's
in
really
a nice
interesting.
way.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's like saying she lived a nice life. And
Yeah.
that's what Angus wanted for her.
Yeah, I mean, I think for that reason, it does hold up pretty well,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
recommend this book without reservations.
Yeah.
I was kind of glad I revisited because I will push it more for
Yeah, I
for
think
some of
it-
our readers. I think it's lovely, and I think especially for a more precocious child. Like I don't know that many of our like 12-year-olds would actually be into this necessarily. This is not an easy book in terms of vocabulary or but for the right reader, I think this would be a great recommendation because it is wrestling with some really profound topics, I think. And again, for the right kid, I could see them really connecting with something in it, whether it's the concept of death and loss, whether it's the weight of keeping secrets and trauma. I mean, I think there's just a lot there that many people could find something to connect with.
And I think also this has some crossover appeal for some adult readers.
Oh, agree. 100%. Yeah, I agree. I think there's plenty here for an adult reader, and this would be a really great book to use for like a mother-daughter book club type of thing,
Totally.
where you read in tandem and then you discuss with other moms and daughters. I was glad to revisit it because I didn't remember it at all, but maybe I was too young when I read it, but I liked it very much as an adult.
I want to go read The Search for Delicious now because
Y'all ready to get into this game?
Yes.
let's do it.
Okay. All right. So today we are going to be doing a quiz from Pro Profs Quizzes. And the quiz is asking, which Tuck Everlasting character are you? So the first question is, you find a spring in the woods that grants immortality. What is your first thought? This could be a fun adventure forever. I need to think about what this means for my future. Immortality sounds like a burden. How can I protect this secret and my loved ones?
Immortality sounds like a burden.
100%.
My first thought, well, now that I've read this book, immortality
Yeah.
sounds like a burden.
I've read too many vampire novels to not pick that one.
Fair.
Yeah. I mean, having to live forever and work forever
Yeah.
to support yourself, like that just sounds like some horrible circle of hell.
Yeah.
2, how do you feel about breaking rules for a good cause? I love a bit of rebellion. Rules are meant to be bent. I'd rather think things through and do what feels right. Rules are important, but family comes first. Or if it's necessary to help someone, I'd break them without hesitation.
No surprise to anyone. I don't like rules. I love a bit of rebellion.
You have to know what they are so that you know what your rules you're breaking.
I'd rather think things through and do what feels right.
Same. At least, that's what I'm putting.
You meet someone who offers you a chance to change your life completely. What do you do? I'm curious and excited about new possibilities. I'm cautious but interested. I'd listen carefully. I'd weigh the pros and cons and think deeply. I'd consider how this change would affect my loved ones.
I think I'm choosing the last one.
Yeah, me too.
I'm instantly suspicious.
I'm cautious but
choice.
interested. I'd listen carefully. Because change your life completely could mean anything. I mean, I'm listening.
They
So
didn't say it was a good change.
yeah. Right, that's true too. How do you feel about the concept of living forever? It sounds amazing. Imagine all the adventures. I'm intrigued but concerned about what it means. It's a curse. Life needs a natural end to have meaning. It could be a gift if it means staying with my family.
Straight up curse.
Yeah, same.
Oh, for sure. It's a curse. You see someone in trouble in the woods. Oh, Hannah, did you answer that last question?
Oh, I did curse.
You see someone in trouble in the woods. What do you do? Jump in to help immediately without thinking twice. Approach carefully and see how you can help without causing more harm. Think about the possible risks, but help in a careful way. Make sure your family is safe first, then help if possible.
I'd jump in.
I think I'd be the third one. Think about the possible risks, but help in a careful way.
Same.
I am thinking approach carefully and see how you can help without causing more harm.
Mm.
But also I do like the think possible risk, but help in a careful way. Because this could be a setup. If you had to choose between staying in one place forever or traveling endlessly, what would you pick? Traveling endlessly. Life is about discovery and adventure. I'd like to travel, but also return to a place I can call home. I'd prefer staying in one place and finding peace there. A mix of both. Home is where my family is, but I'd like to see the world.
I think the last one for me.
Same. What do you do when faced with danger? Face it head on with excitement and energy. Stay calm. Think about the situation and find a safe solution. Reflect on the bigger picture and act cautiously. Protect my loved ones first and ensure they're safe. Where's panic? I'd say reflect on the bigger picture and act cautiously. I don't.
Same.
Again, I'm pretty reckless. I would say face it.
I knew it.
I'm afraid to say I'm probably going to do the first one.
It's funny when I read the first one, I was like, this is definitely going to be Heather.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm about to click view my results.
Here we go.
Interesting.
Oh.
We didn't get a character,
Wait,
right?
no,
it
wait,
says
if
it
you're
at
reading the
it
blue
says it at the
box.
bottom.
Oh, it says it at the
okay. I was
bottom.
like, you got curious and brave.
I got
What?
that too.
Same here.
Oh, we're all Winnie?
Is that what?
We did.
Oh,
What'd you
okay.
get?
Yeah, curious and brave, Winnie.
Curious and brave, you embody curiosity and bravery, navigating life's challenges with a thoughtful heart. As you discover your identity, you make choices based on your morals, valuing freedom and growth. Embrace your journey and let your voice shine. Curious and brave, I got Winnie, a true adventurer. What's your result?
Yeah, well, I'm glad to get Winnie. She's a
Yeah.
good character.
Yeah, honestly, I think I would have been like, especially with the way these questions were reading, I think I would have been annoyed if I got anybody else because it's making it seem like the 10-year-old is the most thoughtful person in this.
She is the most fleshed out character.
She
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Each episode, we ask whether our book passes the Bechdel test. The Bechdel test asks whether a work features two female characters who talk to each other about something that doesn't involve men or boys. So, does it pass?
Well, Mae talks to Winnie about giving her a nightgown and somewhere to sleep.
Yeah.
Um,
There's not a lot of interaction that doesn't reference the other Tuck family members
yeah.
because her like real philosophical conversation happens with Angus, I think. So,
And a little bit with Miles, not really philosophical, but like, I think she just gets a better understanding of him as a person. And
Does she talk to her family about the heat at the beginning? We don't know if the toad is female or male. But the toad doesn't.
it's
I
not
mean, the
really
toad
a
doesn't talk back.
conversation.
No.
Yeah.
I would say this is one of those where like, yeah, it may not exactly pass, but I don't think this is a non-feminist or misogynistic work at all.
Right.
Well, that's it for this episode and this season of These Books Made Me. Stay tuned for possible bonus episodes and news of next season. As always, you can find us on Instagram. We're at These Books Made Me.